right, we're in the club today. Krista, all the way from the University of Vermont, is with us. Welcome, Krista, to In the Club.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's great to have you, Krista.
You know, when we were looking at guests, we're looking at a lovely university in a state that's known for cheese, some lovely craft beers, farm-to-table restaurants. No, fellow Midwesterners, we're not talking about Wisconsin. All the way from Vermont today.
You got that right.
That
Don't
we do.
forget about Vermont's team.
Absolutely, the
University of
Catamounts. You know, when it comes to external relations, that's where you reside. And you look at the balancing act between athletics and you look at the academic side. What exactly goes into external relations and why is it so paramount to a university's operation?
It's a great question to start this off. And you see this at a lot of universities, for better or for worse. But as my role as Associate Athletic Director, I oversee communications, marketing, tickets, special events, and I also supervise some of our sport programs. And then I also oversee licensing for the university. So it's a really interesting tie-in to what I do for university licensing to my role in athletics. And something I love most about it is that I'm able to meet and engage with other folks across campus and beyond and use the athletics platform to best promote our brand.
Yeah, I mean, you look at athletics and it's such a heartbeat to the brand across any college. But you have a very unique mascot, the Catamounts, that I would assume there's some regional history there. Why don't we talk a little bit about what goes into that unique branding element?
Sure. As you saw in my office when you came to visit a few weeks ago, I have a Catamount in my office, which is pretty cool. But the Catamounts are a mountain lion that are...
We don't have those out here in Chicago.
It wasn't a live one in your office, was it?
No, it's not a lie. Oh my God! Don't tell PETA. They might show up in my office. It's interesting. There's actually a story that I'll share in a minute too. That's pretty cool. But there's a lot of different debates about whether the Catamounts are still in existence or not.
Oh, really?
Yes. But from the last that I heard, they are extinct, but a form of a mountain lion.
Okay.
Back in the early 70s, there was actually a catamount that was owned by a fan who lived across the street from our athletic facility. And they would bring the catamount to all of the football and hockey games. Huh. And I have a photo of that in my office as well. And his name was Rink.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Rink's obviously no longer with us. That's another story for another day. But, times were different back then. But it's pretty cool in terms of, when you talk about university traditions.
Absolutely. And I would imagine, like many universities, there's unique campus traditions, and those all tie into that brand and those brand elements you have as a university. You also happen to reside in Burlington, which is a classic New England college town, and the home of some interesting brands that have been born out of Burlington, an ice cream brand that everyone knows very well and enjoys, some Ben & Jerry's. So what goes into making Burlington such a college town and a great place for a campus to reside?
So I think first and foremost, it's the people. It definitely draws an eclectic group of all different individuals. I wouldn't say it's driven by a certain demographic, especially our fan base is a bit all over the place. But certainly some of the things that you noted in terms of the culture that's evolved in the state of Vermont and specifically the Burlington area over the years. It's a place that folks really seem to love to visit all 4 seasons, although I think it's more 3 seasons. I don't really experience spring often. And when I do, it's usually like mud season. But obviously the mountains are gorgeous and it draws a lot of folks to come in for skiing. And then summer months, again, fun on the lake. We have a lot of tourism that comes down from Canada, which is very close, 40-minute drive up to the border. And in the fall, it's just unbelievable. That's my personal favorite season when the leaves are changing. It brings in a ton of folks on buses looking at the foliage and apple picking and all that good stuff.
I can imagine. Very picturesque.
Yes, very picturesque.
But to the point of the mountains, I mean, when I went out there, I was taken back by those. I didn't expect it to consume the skyline, and it was really, really cool. And you pair that with the lake life culture that's there.
Yes.
Get outdoors.
Yes, get outdoors. It's definitely an outdoorsy vibe. And I think that's a draw for students to come to UVM.
Yeah.
I just always think of the movie White Christmas every single time. Must be beautiful this time of year.
You sound like my mom.
It's the best, isn't it?
Yes.
Talk about just the school of pride that you have, right? I think it's interesting being an undergrad there, also graduate school, and then now been working there for so many years. Just talk about the school of pride that you have and what's kept you involved for all this time.
Yeah. What, 15 years working there now?
No, 22.
20? Oh my.
Yeah, I graduated, what year are we in? I graduated in 2002. I swam there. So I came up from Jersey in 98. It's interesting, when I decided I was going to go to UVM over St. Lawrence or Northeastern, which were my two very different competing schools. It was an awful April day and rainy and just not the most beautiful Vermont day. But I had a great warm feeling on campus. It was the people that I met and the conversations that I had with the coaches at the time, and decided to commit and never left. I had a great experience as a student athlete there. Philosophically, my values aligned with the athletic director at the time, and the professors that I had were fantastic. So I was really getting that great athletic and academic experience and met a lot of fantastic people. And right when I was going to graduate, I was offered a job in New York City in fashion and ended up turning that down because the athletic director at the time had said, I'm pretty sure this position of director of marketing is going to be opening up and I'd love for you to apply. So I held it out for a couple months and just enjoyed a Burlington summer and waitressed and applied for the job, and the rest is history. But for me, it comes down to the people that I work with. I am never bored, and things are always changing and different. And I think I could speak for everyone who works in college athletics right now. That is an understatement. But I'm very fortunate to have amazing colleagues, and we hire the right people. We have the right student athletes, and it makes my job that much more enjoyable. I never have issues waking up in the morning to go into work. I have been fortunate enough to work under Jeff Schulman, our athletic director, who has built a culture of family first within our department, and his kids grew up coming to all of our games, and he includes my kids just as well. So for working so many hours, so many months out of the year, being able to have my two boys a part of our Catamount family is there's nothing more important to me than that. Yeah. So the licensing role too, again, has been something that that started for me back in 2016, I believe.
Okay.
So I guess it's not even newer. This is the thing. I love my job so much, and I actually really enjoy what I do, that all these years come together. And
coming up on a decade.
Yeah.
With licensing.
Yeah. And I just, I often don't realize my age. You know, I don't feel like I'm going to be 44 in a couple weeks. I feel like I'm around young people who keep me young until we start talking about social media and other life conversations that I'm like, oh, maybe not.
The Gen Z lingo enters the chat.
Exactly.
I feel the same way, Chris. This is still my first job out of college, so I feel like I've pretty much grown up at Club Colors. It'll be 13 years in a couple weeks for me. I feel the same way. If you said, like 2016, like how long ago was that? Like 4 years ago? That'd be like my guess. 4 years, 2016 seems like, but yeah. I know how you feel. That's exactly how I live my life as well.
We should all be so lucky,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, it's not everyone can say that. So we're fortunate. And I get the same vibe here. You know, this has just been a tremendous day. And again, thank you for having me. Getting to meet everyone from the top down and the organization, and being able to see how everyone values what they do and the work that they put behind it. I can feel the energy of why you guys enjoy what you do. And it's been a day full of smiles and laughs, which has been refreshing.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the kind words a ton. And obviously you and your team are always welcome.
Thank you.
I think, you talked about the people, and that's part of what's made you stick around so long at UVM. And it's one of those things that goes such a long way with how you connect with where you're spending your time and where you're taking time out of your day as you raise a family. Are you connecting with the people that you're spending that time with? So I think it speaks volumes when you think about the brand and you speak about the values that enter the conversation on campus. You're in a unique role where you're balancing the athletic side and that academic side and managing the brand at large. Oftentimes we see silos pop up where the academic side is in their own little world, the athletic side's in their own little world. What goes into that for you to navigate managing a brand across both academic and athletics?
It's an excellent question. And I teach a class each semester, and I use part of the module on licensing about that, which helps me learn a little bit more about what today's younger consumers are looking for. And that helps translate into some of the conversations that we have on our external relations team about how marketing and potential retail sales really work together. But I guess to more simply answer your question, it's about the relationships within those silos and how we can bring everyone together. We have a great relationship with our bookstore. Brendan and Allie are fantastic, and they're always open for ideas, which I appreciate, and they also understand my position in protecting the brand, and that very rarely has there ever been a time where they're coming to me with something that we can't put out there. And all of our retailers really are good like that. But, the more that we can do, again, collaborating between those units at the retail level and external relations and the academic side, quite frankly, because there are other areas of our university that I don't often touch for other reasons than licensing.
Sure.
And it's a real educational process for different units across campus.
Thousands of employees exist at UVM. It's one of those things where you've got a lot of cooks to get in touch with and keep all those cooks in the kitchen cooking the same way.
Right. And I that's the biggest challenge of my position, is wearing so many hats and wanting to, I think it's impossible to perfect perhaps, but feel like I am all in on certain areas. And licensing is one of those, and it's so important. And I feel fortunate again to have folks like yourselves to come in and help me manage a lot of that and try to come up with systems that make it easier for folks across campus.
Yeah. You talk about trends on the retail front and the amazing team you have over at the bookstore. We've talked about this before, where the bookstore tends to be this hub on campus where it's the lifeblood of retail in a lot of ways, and trendsetters that bring products to the marketplace. I think it's one of those things where when you have a great team like that, it just makes it that much easier to engage with the community, not just the employees at the university.
For sure.
Yeah.
Agreed on that. And again, my door is always open to ideas, and I think there's a lot of value in learning from other folks across campus that have nothing to do with athletics or even licensing or retail. Right. So I can better understand what the holes are across campus and even certain products that might be interesting for us to source.
Now, when you talk about sourcing products, UVM is known globally for their sustainability efforts, really leaders in that conversation. When you look at products that come to the marketplace for the UVM brand, how does that enter the equation for you for approvals and for vetting things on the retail front? Critical.
I mean, it really is in today's day of how you operate your licensing unit. And again, it's the dependability on many other important role players, the bookstore, other retailers who come to me with thoughts, products, and ideas. And quite honestly, CLC, who's our trademark licensing partner, I put a lot of faith into them and their knowledge. They have a whole unit that is focused on sustainability. So I work with them regularly on being sure that I understand that we are doing things the right way and working with the right partners. And we really have low tolerance for that. Sustainability is like high on the spectrum.
I read through the comprehensive sustainability plan the other day, and it's amazingly detailed in how you think through things as a university. And for us on our side of the equation, our industry's changed and evolved so much over the last decade, where now the options that you have available to you on that internal side can align with a university mission like that. And to me, that's an exciting time for the campus.
Yes, for sure. And I'll use an example of Bam Bam sticks.
Sure.
The Thunder Sticks.
The Thunder Sticks.
That's been a real conversation over the years. Not as much recently, but when we brought them back into the picture, that was one. It's, they're plastic and we're giving them away, and they serve this great purpose for energy produced by our fans, hitting them together. Yeah. And visually it looks awesome for a TV game. But what are we doing with them after?
Right.
Is there some way to better recycle them or to showcase to our fans what is happening with them when they're recycled? And so those are the types of conversations that I'm having with folks kind of behind the scenes when we're talking about product giveaways, or when a fan comes to me and asks, like, what exactly are you doing? And I guess to take it in another direction too, this is another great example of how you partner with other sponsors. So our Vermont Sports Property team, we're a Learfield school. So they do a tremendous job when they're working with our corporate partners on these giveaways, making sure that they go through the proper process for licensing. And I depend on them for that. And they're tremendous.
Yeah.
Another partner that we work with.
Sustainability topic is so huge right now. I mean, we talked about it earlier today when we were doing our tour, talking about the inks that we use, talking about just the different machines that we have. I mean, just so many different sustainable
Water
products.
consumption.
Exactly. Recyclable materials for apparel. I mean, there's a lot of things that are almost coming out, it seems like, every week in our industry as well, where we're able to source all that great stuff.
Adam's favorite seed journal. So
yes,
it's a journal that when you're done with it, the whole cover, you can plant it and it grows into sunflowers or something.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, we'll show you it after this. It's fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sounds like something we should be doing.
We'll get Jack to take some notes there.
It's a cool piece. But I mean, for UVM then, green is much more than just a Pantone color in your brand.
For sure. And it's, a part of our mission and what we do.
So Krista, it's unique a little bit in how we connected, in the sense that you found us. Talk to us a little bit about what you learned about Club Colors and what drew you to learn more about us as a company.
I think first and foremost, the customer service, the energy behind what you do, and knowing that you're a partner that values what we value, and that's something that you don't always find in other partners in terms of being authentic and making a connection quickly. I think we hit it off pretty quickly, which was great. And I also felt like you would serve a great purpose to our university to help streamline our licensing products and process and bring some new ideas to the table, which I think we really need to energize. And again, when I look at the hats that I wear at our university, that's one that I'm passionate about. But again, I don't feel like I can do it all by myself, and you're the leaders in the industry in that space. So why not partner with someone who can help streamline not only the process, but the ideas?
You said it perfectly. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what our brand advisors are here to do. They're here to help provide that guidance and provide some expertise to folks like yourself that are wearing so many hats. We're here to help. We're here to make it easy.
I'd also say your list of clients is really impressive. So when I'm looking at the other schools that you're partnered with, again, folks that you've done work with interconference or beyond, I think that's a real tribute to the work that you've done. So, and I'd also say just some of the samples that you brought forward, you hit it out of the park from the beginning. So I think it's hard to partner with someone if they don't understand the brand or they don't want to understand the brand. I feel like you've done a really good job of asking the questions and doing the research. So I have confidence in what you're gonna produce for us. And again, like it goes back to the relationships. And I don't want to be encouraging other folks across our campus to be building relationships with someone that I don't feel confident in. Right. So that's where I think this really originated from, and you're filling a gap.
That's exactly how we go to market, right? I mean, you talk about the brand, and that's really what's so important to us, right? Is building that brand, building that relationship, understanding PMS colors, understanding local usage, understanding what colors we're allowed to put things on, right? We talk about these products, talk about sustainability, all these things that we can source, but it's really for us about that brand and being the brand solution provider for campus and really educating as many people as possible about why it's so important to do these things correctly and those processes correctly.
And you mentioned, authenticity in a company. I think you've experienced that today, meeting different folks around the building and listening to me fumble through the beginning intro of this, so the outtakes. But it's one of those things where we are who we are, and we embrace that, and we're here to make that connection with our campus partners and just connect in a different way. It's all about being great partners at the end of the day.
It's awesome. And, something that listeners obviously wouldn't be able to view that I've observed today is even just the layout of your space, the camaraderie among your employees who are working with schools and businesses and sharing ideas and being right there together, I think is something that can work really well for certain businesses. So I think that's a really neat thing that I witnessed. And everyone just so friendly, like people getting up and
it's not
saying
just the
hello
Midwest.
and introducing. I mean, I know this is what people say when they find out I'm from Jersey. Like it's different other places,
Yeah.
But the gong, that was a highlight for me today. People might not know about that unless they listen to this, but that was very welcoming. So I think the way you have things laid out here too is conducive to building ideas and showcasing your energy.
I love that. I mean, building ideas, showcasing ideas, thinking creatively through the brand. That's where our team over in Design Lab too, they're here to help explore those spaces and bring brands to life in a different way. And for yourself, you've got a bit of a rebrand that you're in the middle of exploring and launching and perfecting. What goes into a campus rebrand? I would imagine that's quite the undertaking.
How much time do we have here? So this is an interesting one because I actually was on the outskirts of this.
Okay.
I can't say I was like an integral part of the process. The university decided that they wanted to go through a brand refresh, and they partnered with a company, Generation. And I met with them for a short time at the beginning of the process. And then our director of communications, strategic communications for the university, he brought me into a few conversations with a couple colleagues. And the intention behind the refresh was to really analyze our brand, look at a tagline for the university, look at our colors, and look at our marks. And the outcome of it all was to keep our primary mark in athletics, which was amazing news to me. The VCAT is what we refer to that as. And then take our block V and put that into a shield. And it's two colors, just white and green.
Sure.
So the gold
nice
isn't in there. It's really clean, really crisp. And it pops. And for people in Planet is our tagline. And that was something else that was generated by a number of conversations that were had within that process and with our larger communicators group. So the communications team, I think they're close to 100 communicators across campus that meet. It's called One UVM, and we meet almost monthly, maybe a little less than that, but great conversations among colleagues and a few presentations around this where we were able to give feedback, and CLC had some feedback along the way, which was helpful as well.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Do you lean on other people within the industry who've gone through something like this before? Because it's obviously it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to make happen and do it successfully.
Yeah. On the licensing side of things, I haven't had a ton of that other than CLC, who's been great, because this has all been driven by the strategic communications unit on our campus, more so not from the licensing avenue. But as you know, when you go through this, there's so many impacts. I mean, we have to make sure that everything's trademarked properly through our general counsel. Then we also need to make sure that everything's updated with our style guides and all of our vendors. We have close to 200 vendors that they're communicated with. And the bookstore, again, has been tremendous in helping everyone get on board with this process. And from my chair, I'm really educating folks that come through on campus with requests that want to use our old tower logo, which has been eliminated from our style guide. So that's been, again, everyone's been great about it. They understand. It's been an educational process for me. I think it's something great in my portfolio, again, to say that I've been through the process. I've learned a lot on things that I just have no clue on. Like, very, very fortunate. Shout out to Nicole and Pete Estes in athletics with me. They are like the graphics video gurus for me. And so anytime I have questions, they're right there helping me. They're like my licensing assistants unofficially, but just learning about the PMS color codes and the Adobe suite and how the catalogs change. So it's actually shifted both our Catamount green and gold, which originally it was just supposed to be our green. So it's a very slow transitional process right now when you talk about signage and at retail, but it's been a lot quicker in terms of graphics and our expectations there.
Yeah, I mean, I think signage, campus to campus, that is the longest turnover. I mean, I've gone to schools that rebranded when I started here in 2016, and there's still things residing on walls that are outdated 8-9 years later. So that aligns with what we've seen in terms of the spatial side, taking a little bit of time to get updated over time. But when you talk about your peers in licensing, what words of wisdom would you give to folks that might be undertaking a rebrand in the coming year? Because we see these come up every single year from campus to campus.
Yeah, you're an expert now.
Yeah.
No, you are the expert.
All right. Let me tell you. Patience. Patience is so important. And I'd also say advocacy. For what you believe, don't undervalue your experience in the field, especially if you've been in an institution for a really long time. With that said, I think there's tremendous value when you haven't been in an institution for a very long time and you come in with fresh eyes, and you might start going through this rebrand and have experienced it elsewhere and learned from that, which Joel, our director of strategic communications, this was his third rebrand. So he had experience in that area with Maryland and UNH. So communication is just so critical. And I'd also add that I think it's really important to find the balance of incorporating people who work in this field every day to those conversations with the company that you're outsourcing to do the refresh, the marketing agency. Because there are a lot of people out there who feel a lot of pride and passion to this topic, and they have valuable insight. And even if you're not going to take their insight, I think it's important, again, back to that relationship, making people feel like they're a part of a really strong culture and that their opinions are valued is critical.
Yeah, I love that. I think the value of having their opinions be heard, whether or not they're acted upon is another thing, but having that platform to hear people out, it goes such a long way. And I don't care what industry you're in, people like to feel that they have a voice.
Totally. And my other piece of advice would make sure that you're really buttoned up when it's go time. Yeah. Have the art sheet done in advance before you do the announcement. Have the art sheet done. You've got to have product ready to go. And it doesn't need to be something extensive. It can be stickers or the journals that I gifted you guys, or hats, some simple things to get out to keep people with little notes, handwritten notes. I love a good handwritten note. I think those types of little details are really important.
Now, I know the journals are real. Did you also do stickers and hats then as part of your rollout? Out of those, what did you see as the thing that resonated the best with recipients?
And, they did polo shirts too that we did through our Nike BSN deal, and got those to deans and directors. And
sure.
And again, I'm seeing more of those things come through the queue now. That would be one thing, again, I would have probably in retrospect had all that stuff done in advance before the unveil, just so people had the product in hand rather than having to wait 2 weeks. But that was a strategy by our communications director, which I understand and respect, that they wanted to have a slow rollout. Sure. So they didn't want to do a big splash. And honestly, I didn't understand it at first, but now that we've been through it, I understand it a little bit more. And they had a great plan for what, the 3 weeks in March were going to look like, and what the 4 weeks in April were going to look like. And it's a lot of work for a few people. We've got this guy, Cody, on our campus who's just tremendous, and he's busy working with every department and unit, updating their marks and everything else. That can't happen overnight. So I think making
Can it happen in 2 nights?
Yeah, maybe with him. I don't know. He's a grinder. He's great. But I do think making sure you have that plan, and then again, you're communicating with all your constituents. Why are we having a slower rollout, or why do we want to have everything buttoned up before we do a big announcement? And quite frankly, I was shocked that this didn't leak out. It's funny sometimes with PR and media, what sneaks out and what doesn't. And this was one that was really kept tight to the vest. And there were 3 marks that it was between, and I felt strongly about the other ones, as everyone knew. And so I was pleased with the outcome.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, right? You have to balance all that with not even mentioning that you have alumni, you have other faculty and staff who aren't involved, you have current students, you have a lot of other people that might have an opinion on all of it coming out as well. So I think it's a really interesting balancing act while you're doing all of it.
Yeah, and that actually brings up another great piece of advice. I always value focus groups. I don't do enough of them. For licensing, for athletics, I need to do more. And again, I said I teach classes, and I've used my courses. I teach 2 separate topics, and I use them often for my own focus groups. But I think there's a lot of value, again, when you talk about relationships, bringing in a donor and bringing in certain alums and bringing in fans, season ticket holders, professors. I think, again, look at all your different areas of campus. And And sometimes it's good not even to have a heavy athletic supporter in that group. Have someone that is just someone that in town that doesn't come to a lot of your athletic games or doesn't know a lot about UVM, but maybe went to Michigan or St. Mike's down the road, wherever it may be, and get their opinions on what their perception is, because it's a invaluable educational tool, and it's really cheap.
You mentioned a soft rollout or a phased rollout of the rebrand. What does that initial step look like? What did it look like?
The initial step was a meeting with our communications group that shared, and actually, excuse me, let me take a step back. It was there was a steering committee that our athletic director was on. I was not on the steering committee for this, but they shared with them what the mark was going to be. I don't know like how much conversation there was. I think there was, a lot of anticipation and appreciation for the process. And, this was months upon months that there was, it wasn't like this was created overnight. They did a good job
what do you mean?
Working it out. Yeah. So it was thoughtful for sure.
Yeah.
But then we had our communicators meeting, and then you started seeing things starting to change online. That was the first step. So
the digital
we had
rollout.
The digital rollout was a whole, that was first and foremost. And then social media graphics quickly followed after that. Again, in athletics, it's a secondary mark for us. So you're not going to see it too much. I think for next year, I had one of our hockey equipment guys ask me about doing the shield with hockey underneath it. And I was good with that because it's sideline gear. It's not, a primary mark for us, but I could see it at some point as a secondary mark on like the sleeves of a jersey or as a helmet decal. It won't ever replace the VCAT. We're pretty protective of that 7-color mark.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to ask. What are the next steps? I mean, is it officially done? Are you still have a long way to go? I guess, what does it look like, and what else do we need to know about the rollout?
For me, I need to get this.
Doing all the department lockups.
Yeah. Yes, Cody is doing that. And I don't know how he's doing it, but he's doing it. He's doing a great job. Shout out to Cody. Shout out to Cody. I don't even know what he's like one of those guys too that I never get to really talk to. But whenever I have a meeting with him, I'm just like, let's go. Like he's energizing and he's on point, and he's been at UVM a long time too. So really the next steps for me, I've got to get the art sheet completely finalized with CLC. And then we need to make sure that all of our vendors are complying. Our green and gold are really tough. Like it's amazing. And other schools probably say this too. And we talked about this a little bit this morning, but when you look at how a product prints, the screen printing process or the embroidery process, and it just can vary. And you're talking about what you're putting it on, like a backpack, and how it looks on black versus gray versus gold versus white versus green. I mean, the list goes on. So I really try to work with our internal team for athletics on our brand identity, which Pete has been instrumental in developing for us and giving those options. What are our colorways? And it's no different than what we're doing for the university. So Cody and Joel are really doing that on the university side of the house. And then I'm helping implement that. Whereas in athletics, we're trying to hone in on things. And we talk about it often, like how many more marks do we need to add? Do we want to keep adding marks? Do we want to remove marks? Like when's that appropriate? When's it not? So that's really next steps for me. That's what it looks like. And then educationally speaking, I want to do maybe a video, like a quick 2-minute tutorial to everyone on campus of this is what the licensing process looks like. And I think in today's day, people are just skipping over the website or just not really paying attention to the details, or going with a vendor that's not approved and asking for forgiveness after. And I honestly can't be at every department, unit, organization, club sport meeting at the start of the year.
Yeah.
So I just like to provide a little bit more support to those groups and just go through the process.